Shadows danced under the ancient willow tree, where whispers of long-forgotten ghosts stirred the night air in a quiet English village. A secret society met in the moonlight, plotting mysteries that could unravel the fabric of reality itself. Welcome to the story of Miss Marple and the Ghost Society of the Willow Tree. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and dive into this suspenseful tale. If you enjoy the journey, subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us. Chapter 1. The Arrival in St. Mary Mead Miss. Marple adjusted her spectacles as the train pulled into the station of St. Mary Mead. The village looked as peaceful as ever, with its thatched cottages and blooming gardens, yet something felt off. She had received a cryptic letter from her old friend Lady Harrington, urging her to visit immediately. The letter hinted at strange occurrences involving a society tied to the old willow tree on the outskirts of town. Miss Marple stepped off the platform, her knitting bag in hand. She nodded to the station master, who tipped his hat. "Good day, Miss Marple," he said. "Been a while since you visited." "Indeed it has," she replied with a smile. "Tell me, has anything unusual happened lately?" The man scratched his head. "Well, there's talk of ghosts around that old willow. Folks say they've seen lights and heard voices at night." Miss Marple raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." She made her way to Lady Harrington's manor, the path winding through familiar lanes. Birds chirped overhead and the sun filtered through leaves. But her mind raced with possibilities. Why would Lady Harrington summon her so urgently? As she approached the grand house, the door swung open. "Jane, my dear," exclaimed Lady Harrington, rushing to embrace her. "You came so quickly." "Of course, Eleanor. Your letter sounded serious. Come inside, we must talk." They settled in the drawing room, with tea served by the maid. Lady Harrington leaned forward, her face pale. "It's this ghost society, Jane. They meet under the willow tree, claiming to commune with spirits. But I fear it's more sinister. People have gone missing." Miss Marple sipped her tea thoughtfully. "Tell me everything from the beginning." Lady Harrington began her tale. It started months ago when a group of villagers formed the society, led by Mr. Blackwood, the local historian. They say the willow is a portal to the other side. At first it was harmless seances and stories, but then odd things happened. Crops failed in nearby fields, animals acted strangely, and now 2 members vanished without a trace. Miss Marple nodded. "Who are the members?" Lady Harrington listed them. "Mr. Blackwood, of course, then Mrs. Finch, the schoolteacher, young Tom, the blacksmith's son, Dr. Hayes, the physician, and a few others. They meet every full moon. The next one is tomorrow night." "Perfect timing," said Miss Marple. "I shall observe. But be careful, Jane, there's danger afoot." After tea, Miss Marple unpacked in the guest room. She gazed out the window at the distant willow tree, its branches swaying gently. What secrets do you hold, she wondered. Evening fell, and she joined Lady Harrington for dinner. They discussed old times, but the conversation kept returning to the society. "Eleanor, do you know why they chose the willow?" "Legend says it's haunted by the ghost of a witch hanged there centuries ago. Her spirit guards hidden treasures, or so the stories go." Miss Marple pondered this. Treasures could be a motive, or perhaps something else. Sleep came fitfully that night. Dreams of ghostly figures plagued her. Morning brought clarity. She decided to visit the village proper. Strolling down the main street, she stopped at the post office. Mrs. Gossip, as everyone called her, was behind the counter. "Hello, Miss Marple. Heard you were back." "News travels fast. Any word on the missing folk?" Mrs. Gossip leaned in. "Poor Sally and old Mr. Jenkins. Last seen heading to the willow. Folks blame the ghosts, or maybe the society drove them away." "Interesting." Miss Marple continued to the bakery. Fresh scones tempted her. Baker John greeted her warmly. "Heard about the society?" he asked. "Yes. What do you make of it?" "Bunch of fools, if you ask me. But Blackwood swears by it, says he talks to the dead." Miss Marple bought some treats and moved on. At the pub she overheard men talking. "That tree is cursed," one said. "Stay away." Another laughed. "Or join and see for yourself." She didn't linger. Back at the manor she pieced together clues. The society formed after Blackwood found an old book in his attic. It detailed rituals under the willow. Perhaps the book holds the key. Lady Harrington showed her a similar volume from her library. "Look at this passage. It speaks of summoning spirits for power." Miss Marple read carefully. "Indeed, but power for what?" As dusk approached, she prepared for the night ahead. "I'll go to the meeting," she announced. "Alone. Too risky. I insist." Lady Harrington relented. "Take care." Miss Marple slipped out under cover of darkness. The path to the Willow was overgrown. Owls hooted in the distance. She hid behind bushes as figures gathered. Robed and hooded, they chanted softly. Blackwood stood at the centre holding a glowing orb. "Spirits of the Willow, hear our call," he intoned. "Reveal your secrets." A wind picked up leaves swirling. Miss Marple watched intently. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Tom, looking frightened. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered. Blackwood turned. "You must. The ritual demands sacrifice." Miss Marple's heart raced. Sacrifice. This was no mere ghost hunt. As the chant grew louder, a ethereal light appeared. Gasps echoed. The ghost. But Miss Marple suspected trickery. She noted wires and projectors hidden in branches. Clever, she thought, but why? The meeting ended abruptly when thunder rumbled. Members dispersed. Miss Marple returned to the manor, her mind buzzing. "Eleanor, it's not ghosts. It's a hoax. But for what purpose?" "We'll find out tomorrow," she said. Little did she know the danger was just beginning. The Willow held more than met the eye, and the society guarded a dark secret that could endanger the whole village. As she drifted to sleep, questions swirled. Who orchestrated this? And what happened to the missing? The answers lay ahead in the shadows of the tree. This chapter sets the stage, introducing Miss Marple to the mystery of the Ghost Society. We've met key characters and uncovered initial clues. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where Miss Marple delves deeper into the village's secrets. Chapter 2. Shadows of Suspicion. Miss Marple woke early, the sun barely peeking over St. Mary Mead's rolling hills. The manor was quiet save for the soft clink of teacups as Lady Harrington joined her in the breakfast room. "Eleanor, I must investigate the village today," Miss Marple said, buttering her toast. "The society's meeting last night was staged, but their purpose eludes me." Lady Harrington nodded, her eyes worried. "Be cautious, Jane." Blackwood and his group are tight-knit. After breakfast, Miss Marple set out her shawl wrapped tightly against the morning chill. Her first stop was the village library, a quaint stone building stuffed with dusty tomes. Librarian Miss Clara greeted her warmly. "Back for a mystery, are we?" "Always," Miss Marple smiled. "I'm curious about Mr. Blackwood's book on the willow tree rituals." Miss Clara's face tightened. "That old thing. He borrowed it months ago and never returned it. Said it was for research." She rummaged through records. Here's the title. "Secrets of the Willow Vale." Written in 1750 by a monk. Odd stuff about spirits and hidden relics. "Intriguing," Miss Marple noted. "May I see similar books?" Miss Clara led her to a shelf of local lore. One book caught her eye, a journal mentioning a secret chamber beneath the willow used by smugglers long ago. Could the society be after something hidden there? She thanked Miss Clara and headed to the blacksmith's shop. Young Tom from the meeting worked there, his hammer ringing against iron. "Morning, Tom," she said casually. "Quite a night at the Willow." He froze, his face pale. "You saw." "I didn't mean no harm, Miss Marple. They made me join." "Who's they?" Tom glanced around. "Blackwood and Dr. Hayes, mostly. Said it's for the villagers' good, but I don't trust them. Something about a key thereafter." "A key? To what?" He shook his head. "Won't say more. They'll know I talked." She pressed gently, but Tom clammed up, returning to his work. Next she visited Dr. Hayes's clinic. The physician was mixing tonics, his glasses glinting in the light. "Miss Marple, what brings you here?" "Just a chat, doctor. I hear you're part of the Ghost Society." His smile faltered. "A harmless hobby. We explore old legends, like the Willow's ghost." He shrugged. "Folklore adds charm to the village. But those missing people, Sally and Mr. Jenkins, any theories?" His hands shook slightly. "Tragic. Perhaps they left town." Unlikely, Miss Marple thought, but she thanked him and left. At the church, she found the vicar tending graves near the willow tree. "Reverend Thomas," she began, "any odd visitors here at night?" He sighed. "Those society folk. They sneak around thinking I don't notice. Last week I saw Mrs. Finch digging near the tree. Digging? For what? She claimed it was for planting, but it was midnight. Strange time for gardening. Miss Marple's mind raced. Digging could mean searching for the chamber or this key Tom mentioned. She thanked the vicar and walked to the willow itself. The tree loomed massive, its roots sprawling like veins. She circled it, noticing fresh earth patches. Someone had been digging recently. Kneeling, she brushed dirt aside, finding a small carved stone with a symbol, a circle with a cross. Odd. It matched a drawing in the journal she'd read. Was this a clue to the chamber? As she pondered, footsteps crunched behind her. Turning, she saw Mrs. Finch, the schoolteacher, her face stern. "Miss Marple, what are you doing here?" "Just admiring the tree. It's quite the landmark." Mrs. Finch's eyes narrowed. "Best leave old things alone. Some secrets aren't meant to be uncovered." A warning or a threat, Miss Marple wondered. She smiled politely. "Of course, I'll be off." Back at the manor, she sketched the symbol and shared her findings with Lady Harrington. "Eleanor, this key and chamber are central to the mystery. The society's after something tangible, not spirits." "But what?" Lady Harrington frowned. "There's an old tale about a relic hidden by the witch, a key to untold wealth or power. Could that be it?" "Possibly. I need to see Blackwood's book." That evening, Miss Marple attended a village tea social, hoping to glean more. Blackwood was there, charming the crowd with tales of the Willow's history. She approached him. "Mr. Blackwood, I hear you've studied the Willow's secrets. Fascinating book you found." His eyes gleamed. "Oh, yes. It speaks of ancient rites. Care to join us tomorrow night?" "Perhaps," she said, dodging. "What do these rites achieve?" "Enlightenment," he replied smoothly. "Nothing more." She sensed he was lying. As the social ended, she noticed Dr. Hayes and Mrs. Finch whispering in a corner, glancing her way. "They're watching me," she thought. Night fell, and Miss Marple stayed up poring over the library journal. The symbol she'd found suggested an entrance near the willow's roots, activated by a ritual phrase. If the society knew this, they might be close to their goal. A knock at the door startled her. Lady Harrington entered, holding a note. "Jane, this was slipped under the door." It read, "Stop prying or you'll end like the others." Miss Marple's pulse quickened. "Someone's afraid I'm getting close. Tomorrow I'll confront Blackwood directly." Lady Harrington gasped. "That's dangerous." "It's necessary," Miss Marple said firmly. As she prepared for bed, the willow's shadow loomed outside her window. The society was hiding something big, and she was determined to uncover it before their next meeting. The key, the chamber, and the missing villagers all pointed to a plot far darker than ghost stories. The trail grows hotter as Miss Marple uncovers clues about a hidden chamber and a mysterious key. Stay tuned for Chapter 3, where she takes a bold step to confront the society's leader. Chapter 3. The Confrontation. Miss Marple rose before dawn, her mind sharp despite the threatening note from the night before. She tucked the paper into her knitting bag, determined not to be intimidated. Today, she would confront Mr. Blackwood and get answers about the Ghost Society's true intentions. Over breakfast, Lady Harrington tried to dissuade her. "Jane, that note means danger. Let the police handle it." Miss Marple shook her head. "The police won't act without evidence, Eleanor. I need to press Blackwood myself." She finished her tea and set out for Blackwood's cottage on the edge of St. Mary Mead. The morning air was crisp, and dew clung to the grass as she walked. His home was modest, ivy crawling up its stone walls. She knocked firmly. The door creaked open, revealing Blackwood, his face guarded but polite. "Miss Marple, what a surprise. Come in." She stepped inside, noting shelves crammed with old books and artifacts. "I won't waste your time, Mr. Blackwood. I saw the Society's ritual at the Willow. It's no ghost hunt." "What are you really after?" His smile was thin. "You're direct. It's just historical research, nothing more. We study the Willow's legends. Then why the secrecy? Why the missing villagers?" His eyes flickered. "I don't know about Sally or Jenkins. Perhaps they wandered off. And the digging near the tree. The talk of a key?" Blackwood's composure slipped for a moment. "You've been busy. Those are old tales, Miss Marple. No harm in exploring them." She pressed on. "I found a carved stone with a symbol, a circle and cross. It matches descriptions of a hidden chamber. What do you know about it? He stood abruptly. You're meddling in things you don't understand. Leave it be. His tone was sharp, almost threatening. She held his gaze. I intend to find out what happened to those people. Thank you for your time. As she left, she felt his eyes boring into her back. Next, she headed to the village hall where records of local history were kept. The clerk, a nervous young man named Peter, let her in. I'm looking for anything on the Willow tree's past, she said. Smugglers' chambers or relics. Peter dug through dusty files, pulling out a map from the 1700s. This shows tunnels under the village, one leading to the Willow. Used by smugglers, maybe. She studied the map, memorizing the tunnel's path. Could the society be searching for this entrance? She thanked Peter and slipped out, heading to the Willow again. The tree stood silent, its branches heavy in the midday light. She examined the roots more closely, finding another carved stone, this one partially buried. It bore the same symbol. She brushed away dirt, revealing a faint outline in the ground, like a trapdoor's edge. Her heart quickened. This must be the chamber's entrance, but how to open it? Footsteps interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Hayes approached, his face stern. Miss Marple, you're persistent. This tree is private property. You shouldn't be here. Whose property? She asked calmly. The society's, in a manner of speaking. We've leased the land for research that involves digging at midnight. His jaw tightened. You're mistaken. I suggest you stop spreading rumors. She smiled faintly. I'm only seeking the truth, Doctor. He turned and left without another word. Miss Marple returned to the manor, her mind racing. The map, the stones, the threats, all pointed to the society hiding something valuable. Perhaps the relic Lady Harrington mentioned. She decided to visit Mrs. Finch next, the schoolteacher who'd been digging. At the schoolhouse, children played outside while Mrs. Finch graded papers. Miss Marple entered, her demeanour gentle. Mrs. Finch, I noticed you at the Willow. Care to explain the digging? The teacher's pen froze. I was checking soil for a project. At night? Mrs. Finch flushed. It's private business. You're stirring trouble, Miss Marple. Not my intention. But Sally and Jenkins deserve answers. Mrs. Finch stood. I've nothing to say. Please leave. Back at the manor, Miss Marple shared her findings with Lady Harrington. The map shows a tunnel to the chamber, and the stones mark the entrance. Blackwood and his group are after something, likely that relic. But why the disappearances? Lady Harrington paled. If they found the chamber, maybe Sally and Jenkins saw too much. Possible, Miss Marple said. I need to attend tonight's meeting, but this time I'll get inside their circle. Eleanor gasped. That's reckless. It's the only way. As night fell, Miss Marple donned a dark shawl and crept to the Willow. The society was already gathering, their robes swaying in the breeze. She hid behind a thick trunk, watching as Blackwood raised the glowing orb again. Tonight we unlock the chamber, he declared. The key is near. Dr. Hayes stepped forward, holding a small metal object, a key with the same circle-cross symbol. Miss Marple's breath caught. They'd found it, the group chanted, and the ground trembled slightly. A stone shifted, revealing a dark opening. Blackwood grinned. At last. They descended, unaware of Miss Marple slipping closer. She peered into the hole, seeing flickering torchlight below. Voices echoed, mentioning a relic of power. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her shoulder. She turned to face Tom, his eyes wide with fear. Miss Marple, you can't go down there. It's not safe. Why, Tom? What are they doing? He whispered. They think the relic controls life and death, but it's cursed. I heard them say Sally and Jenkins. They're gone because of it. Before she could ask more, a shout rang out. Who's there? Blackwood's voice. Tom pulled her back into the shadows as the society emerged, their faces furious. Miss Marple's heart pounded. She'd seen the chamber's entrance, but now the society knew someone was watching. The hunt for the truth had just grown far more dangerous. The stakes rise as Miss Marple uncovers the chamber and the society's deadly secret. Stay tuned for Chapter 4, where she ventures closer to the truth and faces new dangers. Chapter 4. Into the depths, Miss Marple's heart still raced as she and Tom crouched in the shadows. the society's voices fading as they dispersed into the night. The willow tree loomed above, its branches swaying like silent sentinels. Tom's warning about the cursed relic and the fate of Sally and Jenkins echoed in her mind. She whispered, "Tom, tell me everything you know about this relic." He glanced around, his voice low. "They say it's a crystal hidden by the witch centuries ago, supposed to grant power over life and death. Blackwood's obsessed with it. Thinks it'll make him unstoppable. And the missing villagers?" Tom swallowed hard. "I overheard Dr. Hayes say they got too curious, saw the chamber. They didn't make it out." Miss Marple's resolve hardened. "We need to see inside that chamber, tonight, before they move the relic." Tom's eyes widened. "That's mad, Miss Marple. They'll catch us. Then we'll be careful." She stood, brushing dirt from her shawl. "Come with me or stay, but I'm going in." Tom hesitated, then nodded. "I'm in." They waited until the last robed figure vanished, then crept to the trapdoor. The stone slab was ajar, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Miss Marple pulled a small torch from her bag, its beam cutting through the gloom. The air grew damp as they descended, the walls rough-hewn and ancient. At the bottom, a tunnel stretched forward, lined with moss-covered stones. "This must be the smuggler's passage," she murmured. "Look at these markings." She pointed to faint carvings, more circle cross symbols etched into the walls. Tom shivered. "Feels wrong down here." Ignoring the chill, they pressed on. The tunnel opened into a small chamber, its center dominated by a stone pedestal. On it sat a crystal, glowing faintly with an eerie green light. "The relic," Miss Marple breathed. It pulsed as if alive. Around the chamber, shelves held old books, ritual tools, and jars of strange herbs. She noticed a ledger and flipped it open. Names were listed, society members with notes on their rolls. Blackwood was marked as keeper, Dr. Hayes as seer, Mrs. Finch as guardian. Beside Sally and Jenkins' names were the words "eliminated," "threat to the cause." Her stomach churned. They were murdered. Tom's face paled. "I knew it was bad, but this... We gotta get out." "Not yet." She pocketed a small vial of herbs for later analysis and sketched the chamber's layout in her notebook. A noise echoed, a stone shifting above. "Someone's coming," Tom hissed. They doused the torch and hid behind a shelf. Footsteps descended, and Dr. Hayes's voice filled the chamber. "Blackwood, we can't keep this up." "She's too close." "Miss Marple's here, isn't she?" Blackwood's voice was cold. "If she's in the village, we'll deal with her like the others. The relic's worth it. They're planning to move it tomorrow night." Miss Marple's mind raced. She had to act fast. As the men left, she and Tom slipped out, emerging under the willow's roots. The night was still, but danger felt close. Back at the manor, she locked her door and shared the findings with Lady Harrington. "Eleanor, the relic's real, and it's tied to murders. This ledger proves it. We need to alert the authorities, but I must gather more evidence first." Lady Harrington clutched her hand. "Jane, they're ruthless. If they find you, I'll be careful. Tomorrow, I'll track Mrs. Finch. She's the guardian, likely guarding the relic's secrets." At dawn, Miss Marple visited the schoolhouse again, but Mrs. Finch was absent. A child mentioned seeing her near the church. At the graveyard, Miss Marple found fresh footprints leading to a crypt. The door was unlocked, and inside, she saw Mrs. Finch arranging candles around another carved symbol. Mrs. Finch spun around. "You again. Stop interfering." "What's in the chamber, Mrs. Finch? Why kill for it?" The teacher's face twisted. "You'll ruin everything. The relic's power will save us all." "Save you from what?" Mrs. Finch fled, leaving Miss Marple with more questions. She examined the crypt, finding a hidden panel with a map showing another tunnel entrance. This society had planned carefully, but their desperation was showing. Back in the village, she overheard gossip at the pub. Blackwood had been buying strange supplies. Ropes, lanterns, even dynamite. Were they planning to destroy the chamber to hide their tracks? She returned to the manor, plotting her next move. Tonight's meeting would be critical. If they moved the relic, evidence might vanish. She prepared a small bag with her torch, notebook, and a whistle for emergencies. As dusk settled, she told Lady Harrington, "I'm going to the Willow again. If I don't return by midnight, call Inspector Craddock. Eleanor nodded, tears in her eyes. Be safe, Jane. Under the cover of darkness, Miss Marple approached the Willow, the society's chants already rising. She hid, watching as Blackwood held the crystal aloft, its glow casting shadows. The ground shook again, and the trapdoor opened. This was her chance, but a twig snapped under her foot. Heads turned. Who's there? Blackwood barked. Miss Marple froze, her heart pounding. The society was closing in, and the relic's power hung in the balance. Miss Marple's discovery of the chamber and the society's deadly plot tightens the noose. Stay tuned for Chapter 5, where she faces a perilous encounter and uncovers a deeper truth. Chapter 5. The Perilous Encounter. Miss Marple held her breath as the society's members fanned out their torches, casting flickering shadows across the ground beneath the willow tree. The air was thick with tension, the scent of damp earth and night-blooming flowers hanging heavy. Blackwood's voice cut through the darkness, sharp and commanding. Search the area, we can't afford intruders now, not when we're so close. Her foot had betrayed her with that unfortunate snap of a twig, and now she was trapped in the open, her dark shawl blending somewhat with the night. But not enough to hide forever. Tom tugged at her sleeve, his face pale in the moonlight. This way, Miss Marple, quick before they spot us. They darted behind a cluster of bushes, the leaves rustling softly as they crouched low. Footsteps crunched nearby, and she could hear Mrs. Finch muttering, I told you someone was prying too much, that meddlesome old woman from the manor. Dr. Hayes replied, his tone urgent. If it's her, we deal with it quietly, the relic must remain secret. Miss Marple's mind whirled, piecing together the fragments she had gathered the crystal in the chamber. The ledger of murders, the maps of tunnels. The relic wasn't just a trinket. It was something ancient, perhaps truly cursed, as Tom had whispered, capable of bending fate. Or so the legends claimed. But why did Blackwood crave it so desperately? Was it wealth power, or something more personal? She needed to uncover the deeper truth before they silenced her for good. The search party moved closer, their lights sweeping dangerously near. Tom whispered, I know a back path through the woods. It leads to the river. We can lose them there. She nodded, trusting the young man's knowledge of the terrain. They slipped away, inching along the underbrush, the willow tree's massive trunk providing momentary cover. A shout echoed. Over there I saw movement. Run, Tom urged, and they bolted the ground, uneven underfoot roots snagging at her skirts. Miss Marple wasn't as spry as in her youth, but adrenaline fueled her steps, her knitting bag bouncing against her side. They plunged into the denser woods branches, whipping at their faces, the night alive with the sounds of pursuit. Behind them, Blackwood's voice boomed. After them, don't let them escape. Tom led her to a narrow stream, the water gurgling softly. Cross here, it's shallow. She hiked up her hem and waded through the cold current, chilling her to the bone, but refreshing her focus. On the other side, they paused, gasping for breath. Think we lost them, Tom said, peering back. For now, Miss Marple replied, but they'll be on guard. We need a plan. They made their way to a secluded glade where Tom often hid as a boy. Sitting on a fallen log, she pressed him for more details. Tell me about the relic, Tom. How did Blackwood learn of its power? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It started with that old book he found in his attic. Described the witch who was hanged under the willow back in 1692. She was no ordinary woman, they say, a healer with forbidden knowledge. Before her death, she hid the crystal, a gem forged from starlight or some such nonsense that could heal the sick or strike down enemies. Blackwood believes it's real, tested it on animals first. Miss Marple's eyes widened. Tested how? He used it on a sick horse, made it well overnight. But then a stray dog got near it and withered away like dust. That's the curse. It gives life but takes it too unpredictably. And the society, they all want a piece of it. Dr. Hayes for his patients, Mrs. Finch to protect her family from some old debt, Blackwood for control over the village. Sally and Jenkins, they stumbled on a ritual, saw the crystal in action. Blackwood said they had to go to keep the secret. Murder then? Miss Marple murmured, her voice steady despite the horror. We must expose them, but I need proof, something undeniable. Tom thought for a moment. There's a hidden cache in the chamber, More documents, letters between members. If we can get back there. Too risky now, she said. They'll be watching the Willow like hawks. Perhaps another way, the crypt at the church Mrs. Finch was there earlier. It might connect via the tunnels. Dawn was breaking, faint light filtering through the trees when they decided to head to the church. The village was stirring, farmers heading to fields, but they kept to the shadows, arriving at the graveyard unseen. The crypt door creaked as they entered, the air musty and cool. Miss Marple lit her torch, revealing the arranged candles and the hidden panel she had found before. Pushing it aside, a narrow tunnel yawned before them, damp walls echoing their footsteps. This must lead to the main chamber, she said, excitement tingling in her veins. They navigated the passage carefully, avoiding loose stones that could give them away. After what felt like hours, the tunnel widened, merging with the one under the willow. Voices drifted from ahead, Blackwood and Dr. Hayes arguing. "We can't move the relic, yet the curse isn't fully understood," Blackwood snapped. "We have no choice. That woman knows too much. By tomorrow she'll have the police here." Miss Marple signalled Tom to stay back as she crept closer, peeking into the chamber. The crystal still sat on its pedestal, pulsing with that unnatural glow. Blackwood held a vial, perhaps one of the herbs she had seen. "This elixir will stabilize it," he said. Dr. Hayes looked doubtful. "Or kill us all like it did the others." Others, Miss Marple thought so. There were more victims. She stepped back carefully, but her foot dislodged a pebble. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "Who's there?" Blackwood roared. They charged toward the tunnel. "Run!" Miss Marple cried to Tom, and they fled back the way they came, the pursuit hot on their heels. The tunnel twisted and turned, her lungs burning as they ran. Tom shouted, "There's a side branch up ahead. It leads to the surface near the river." They veered into it, the path narrower, forcing them single file. Behind them, Dr. Hayes' voice faded, but Blackwood's persisted, relentless. Emerging into daylight, they collapsed near the riverbank, hidden by reeds. "That was too close," Tom panted. Miss Marple nodded, catching her breath. "But I heard enough. The relic has claimed more lives than we knew, and they're desperate to control it. We need allies, perhaps the vicar or Inspector Craddock." Back at the manor, Lady Harrington waited anxiously. "Jane, you're safe, thank heavens." Miss Marple recounted the chase and revelations. "Eleanor, the society's unravelling from within the curse is real, in a way unpredictable and deadly. They've killed to protect it, but fear it too." Lady Harrington fetched tea, her hands steadying. "What now? Tonight is the full moon, their big ritual. Ill infiltrate, disguised perhaps with Tom's help. It's our chance to catch them in the act." As the day wore on, Miss Marple rested, planning meticulously. She fashioned a simple disguise from old clothes in the attic, a hooded cloak to mimic the society's robes. Tom arrived later, slipping in through the back. "Ready, Miss Marple?" As ever, she replied. Together they set out as dusk fell, the willow calling them back into danger. The society gathered, unaware of the intruders in their midst. Blackwood began the chant, the crystal glowing brighter. Miss Marple edged closer, her heart pounding, ready to reveal the truth at last. But as the ritual peaked, a scream pierced the night. One of the members clutched their chest, collapsing. "The curse strikes again," someone yelled. Chaos erupted, and in the confusion, Miss Marple saw her opportunity, but Blackwood spotted her, his eyes blazing with fury. The encounter escalates with chases, revelations and chaos as Miss Marple delves into the relic's curse and the society's fractures. Stay tuned for Chapter 6, where the ritual unfolds and secrets explode. Chapter 6. The Ritual. Unravelled. The scream still echoed under the willow tree as the ghost society descended into panic. The fallen member, a quiet farmer named Mr. Grayson, lay motionless, his face twisted in agony, the crystal's eerie green glow pulsing brighter on the pedestal. Miss Marple, cloaked in her makeshift robe, stood frozen among the robed figures, her hood pulled low to conceal her face. Blackwood's furious gaze locked onto her, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You! Show yourself!" She held her ground, heart hammering, knowing exposure now could be deadly. The society members turned, their eyes darting between the body and her shadowed figure. Tom, hidden nearby in the bushes, signalled her with a subtle wave, urging her to slip away. But Miss Marple sensed this was the moment. The ritual's collapse might reveal the truth she needed. She deepened her voice, mimicking Mrs. Finch's stern tone. Calm yourselves. It's the curse, not an intruder. We must focus. Blackwood hesitated, his suspicion wavering as Dr. Hayes knelt by Grayson. He's gone, he muttered. The crystal. It's unstable tonight. Miss Marple seized the distraction, edging closer to the pedestal. The crystal hummed, its light casting strange patterns on the chamber walls below, visible through the open trapdoor. She needed to understand its power and why it was worth killing for. Mrs. Finch, her face pale, grabbed Blackwood's arm. We should stop. This is the third death. The curse is too strong. Blackwood shook her off. No, we're too close. The elixir is ready. It'll control the relic tonight. Miss Marple's ears pricked. Elixir? That must be the vial she'd seen Blackwood holding earlier. She glanced at the trapdoor, tempted to descend again, but footsteps crunched behind her. Young Tom's voice whispered, Miss Marple, they're circling us. We've got to move. She nodded, slipping toward the edge of the gathering, but Blackwood's voice boomed again. Enough! Guard the chamber. No one leaves until we complete the ritual. The members formed a loose ring around the Willow, trapping her and Tom in the crowd. Miss Marple's mind raced. She had to disrupt the ritual without blowing her cover. She noticed the vial in Blackwood's hand, glowing faintly as he raised it toward the crystal. If that elixir stabilized the relic, they might unlock its full power. Whatever that meant. She whispered to Tom, We need that vial. Can you create a diversion? Tom nodded, slipping into the shadows. Moments later, a loud crack echoed, a branch snapping deliberately in the woods. Heads turned, and several members rushed toward the sound, shouting. Who's out there? Blackwood cursed, clutching the vial tighter. Miss Marple saw her chance. She bumped into him, feigning a stumble, and deftly plucked the vial from his hand, tucking it into her sleeve. Sorry, I tripped, she mumbled, keeping her face hidden. Blackwood glared but was distracted as Tom threw another stone, drawing more members away. Miss Marple moved toward the trapdoor, descending quickly into the chamber. The crystal's glow was blinding now, its hum almost deafening. She examined the vial. Its liquid shimmered with flecks of gold. Could this be the key to the relic's power, or was it another layer of deception? Footsteps thundered above. She's down there! Dr. Hayes shouted. Miss Marple pocketed the vial and scanned the chamber for anything else. A small box caught her eye, tucked behind the pedestal. She opened it, finding letters tied with string. One was addressed to Blackwood from a London collector, offering a fortune for a starlight crystal. So, it was about money, she thought, but the death suggested more. Perhaps fear of the curse's unpredictability. The trapdoor creaked open, and Blackwood's silhouette appeared. You've gone too far, whoever you are, he growled. Hand over what you took. Miss Marple stood tall, dropping her disguise. It's over, Mr. Blackwood. I know about the murders, the relic, and your buyer in London. His face twisted with rage. You're that Marple woman. You'll regret this. He lunged, but Tom appeared, tackling him from behind. Run, Miss Marple, he shouted. They scrambled up the stairs, Blackwood's shouts rallying the others. Outside, the society was in disarray. Some members fleeing, others staring at Grayson's body. Mrs. Finch blocked their path, her eyes wild. Give me the vial! It's our only chance to control it. Miss Marple held it up but didn't hand it over. Why kill for this, Mrs. Finch? What's the real goal? The teacher faltered. Blackwood promised it would save us. Debts, illness, ruin. But it's cursed. It takes more than it gives. Dr. Hayes joined her, his voice desperate. We didn't mean for deaths. The crystal. It acts on its own. Miss Marple backed away, Tom at her side. You've all been deceived by greed and fear. The police will hear of this. As she spoke, a low rumble shook the ground. The crystal's glow flared through the trapdoor, and a strange wind whipped around the Willow. It's waking! Someone screamed. The society scattered, some running for the village, others frozen in terror. Blackwood broke free from Tom, diving for the trapdoor. I'll have it yet, he roared. Miss Marple grabbed Tom's arm. Let him go! We have the vial and the letters. Enough to expose them. They fled toward the manor, the Willow's eerie light fading behind them. At Lady Harrington's, Miss Marple locked the door and laid out the evidence. "Eleanor, call Inspector Craddock. This ends tonight." Lady Harrington nodded, rushing to the phone. Miss Marple examined the vial, its contents swirling. If the elixir stabilized the crystal, it might also neutralize it. But using it was too risky without understanding its nature. Tom slumped in a chair. "What now, Miss Marple?" "We wait for the police. But I suspect Blackwood's still at the chamber. He's obsessed. If the curse is real, he may not survive it." As they waited, a distant explosion rocked the night, coming from the Willow. Had Blackwood used the dynamite she'd heard about? The relic's fate and the society's hung in the balance. The ritual's chaos exposes the society's greed and the relic's danger, pushing Miss Marple closer to the truth. Stay tuned for Chapter 7, where the aftermath reveals shocking twists. Chapter 7. Echoes of the explosions. Distant boom from the willow tree shattered the night's fragile calm, sending shockwaves through St. Mary Mead that rattled windows and stirred sleeping villagers from their beds. Miss Marple stood at the manor's drawing-room window, her face illuminated by the faint orange glow on the horizon, her hands clasped tightly around the vial she had taken from Blackwood. Lady Harrington froze mid-step, the telephone receiver dangling from her hand as she stared wide-eyed at her friend. "Jane, what was that, an explosion?" Miss Marple nodded, her expression grim. "From the direction of the Willow, Eleanor. Blackwood must have used the dynamite I heard whispers of in the village. He's desperate to bury the relic. Or perhaps destroy evidence before the police arrive." Tom bolted to the window, peering out. "We can't just wait here, Miss Marple. If he's blown the chamber, the whole society might be in pieces or fleeing." She turned, her mind already racing ahead. "You're right, Tom. But rushing back now could be suicide. The ground might be unstable, and survivors could be dangerous. Inspector Craddock will be here soon. We must prepare to guide him." Lady Harrington hung up the phone, her voice trembling. "Hare's on his way with constables, but that blast will draw half the village." As if on cue, distant shouts echoed through the night lanterns bobbing, as curious folk emerged from their homes heading toward the Willow. Miss Marple slipped the vial and letters into her knitting bag, securing them safely. "These are our proof, Eleanor, the elixir that was meant to tame the crystal, and correspondence proving Blackwood's intent to sell it. If the relic's destroyed, it might end the curse, but not the murders." Tom paced nervously. "What if Blackwood survived? He's mad enough to come after us." "Then well, be ready," Miss Marple said calmly, though her pulse quickened at the thought. She moved to the study, rummaging through Lady Harrington's desk for paper and pen, quickly jotting down a timeline of events, the society's members, the relic's description, and the chamber's layout. "This will help the inspector," she explained. As minutes stretched into what felt like hours, a knock pounded at the door. Lady Harrington opened it to reveal Inspector Craddock, his uniform slightly dishevelled from the hasty summons, his moustache twitching with concern. "Miss Marple, good heavens, what's happened here? The village is in an uproar about an explosion at that old tree." She ushered him in, recounting the night's chaos, the ritual, the chase, the crystal's deadly flare, and Blackwood's obsession. Craddock listened intently, his notebook filling with scribbles. "And you have evidence of murders, you say?" She produced the letters and ledger, pointing to the incriminating entries. "Sally Jenkins, and now possibly Grayson eliminated for knowing too much. The relic, a crystal with supposed powers, but likely just a rare gem amplified by superstition and greed." Craddock examined the documents, his brow furrowing. "This is serious, Miss Marple. If true, we've got multiple homicides on our hands. That blast might have been an attempt to cover tracks. We need to investigate the site immediately." "I'll go with you, Inspector," she insisted. "You know the village, but I know the society's secrets." He hesitated, then nodded. "Very well, but stay back, it's dangerous." Tom chimed in. "I'm coming too, I know the paths." With constables in tow, they set out the group, moving swiftly through the darkened lanes. Villagers clustered at the edges, whispering excitedly as smoke curled lazily from the Willow's direction. The air grew thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder and charred wood as they approached. The tree itself stood scarred but intact, its massive trunk blackened on one side, branches drooping like wounded arms. Below, a crater yawned. Where the trapdoor had been, the chamber collapsed into a rubble-filled pit. Craddock shone his lantern down. Blimey, looks like someone set off charges inside. Any sign of survivors? Constables scoured the area, one calling out, "Over here, sir, a body." They gathered around the limp form of Dr. Hayes. His clothes singed, his face smeared with soot. "Hayes alive, barely," Craddock said, checking for a pulse. "Get him to the village doctor." As Hayes was carried away, he stirred, mumbling incoherently. The crystal, it shattered the curse. Miss Marple leaned closer. "Doctor, what happened down there?" His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Blackwood. He ignited the dynamite to destroy it all. But the crystal exploded, first light, everywhere pain. He passed out again, leaving them with fragments of the puzzle. Tom spotted something glinting in the dirt, a shard of green crystal, sharp and iridescent. "Don't touch it," Miss Marple warned. "If the curse is tied to its instability, that could be deadly." Craddock bagged it carefully. "We'll have it analyzed in the lab." Meanwhile, constables rounded up fleeing society members Mrs. Finch found cowering in the woods, babbling about atonement. She confessed tearfully as they led her away. "We never meant for blood." Blackwood twisted it all, promised riches from the sale. But the crystal it hungered took lives randomly during tests. Grayson tonight was the last straw. Miss Marple nodded, piecing it together. So the powers were real in a sense, perhaps radioactive or toxic, explaining the withering effects Tom described. Not supernatural, but scientific. A rare mineral may be amplified by the elixir. Craddock raised an eyebrow. "You think so, Miss Marple?" "Possible," she replied. "The witch's legend might stem from early knowledge of such dangers. Blackwood exploited it for profit, luring others with promises. But where's Blackwood now? A search of the crater yielded no body, only twisted metal and scattered books from the chamber." "He might have escaped," one constable suggested. "Or been vaporized." Miss Marple doubted it. "Has cunning hell have had an exit plan? Check the tunnels, the crypt entrance perhaps." Craddock dispatched men to the church, where they found the hidden panel, disturbed footprints leading away. "Has fled," the inspector growled. "We'll put out an alert." Back at the manor, dawn broke, casting a pale light over the weary group. Lady Harrington brewed strong tea as Miss Marple reflected. "The society's fractured, but Blackwood's at large, and that shard proves the crystal wasn't fully destroyed. If he collects the pieces." Tom yawned. "You think he'd try after all this?" "Obsession runs deep," she said. "And those letters mention a buyer in London, someone powerful enough to fund this madness." Craddock perked up. "A buyer, give me the details." She handed over the correspondence. "Anonymous but postmarked from Mayfair. Track that, and you might find Blackwood's bolt hole." The inspector nodded, gathering his team. "Miss Marple, you've done it again, but stay safe. We'll handle the rest." As he left, she turned to Lady Harrington. "Eleanor, this isn't over. I feel it in my bones. Blackwood won't stop until he has what's left of the relic." That afternoon, while the village buzzed with gossip, Miss Marple visited the clinic where Dr. Hayes recovered. Bandaged and weak, he spoke haltingly. "Blackwood found the crystal in the chamber last year after decoding the old book. Tested it on small things, saw it heal or harm randomly. Thought the elixir, a recipe from the witch's era, would control it. But it only made it worse volatile. We killed to keep the secret. Sally saw a test on an animal Jenkins overheard plans to sell." Miss Marple pressed gently. "And the buyer?" Hayes sighed. "A collector named Lord Voss deals in occult artifacts. Blackwood met him in London, promised the crystal for a king's ransom. If Blackwood's alive, hell go there." Armed with this, she returned to the manor, phoning Craddock with the lead. But impatience gnawed at her. Blackwood was slippery, the police might be too slow. Tom offered. "I can drive you to the station. Miss Marple, London isn't far." She considered, then nodded. "Very well, but well inform the inspector first." They caught the evening train, the countryside blurring past as night fell. In London, they hailed a cab to Mayfair, the address from the letters a grand townhouse shrouded in ivy. Knocking yielded no answer, but a light flickered in an upstairs window. Someone stirred, Miss Marple whispered. Around back, a servant's entrance stood ajar. They slipped inside the house, opulent with antique furnishings and glass cases of oddities. Voices murmured from a study. Blackwood's tone desperate. "The crystal shattered. But I have shards Lord Voss enough to rebuild, a cultured voice replied. You fool, the explosion made headlines if the police link it to me. Miss Marple peered through the keyhole, seeing Blackwood bandaged and soot-stained, holding a pouch of green fragments. Voss, a tall man with a sharp beard, examined one. Potent still, but incomplete. You'll get half payment, fix this mess. Tom shifted, accidentally knocking a vase. It crashed, and the voices stopped. Run, Miss Marple hissed. They fled out the back as footsteps thundered. Outside she flagged a bobby, explaining breathlessly. Intruder, sir, but really a fugitive inside Blackwood wanted for murder. The constable blew his whistle, reinforcements arriving swiftly. A scuffle ensued, Blackwood attempting escape through a window. But Voss surrendered quickly, denying involvement. As dawn rose over London, Miss Marple watched Blackwood cuffed and led away, his eyes burning with defeat. You again, he snarled. She smiled serenely. Justice finds its way, Mr. Blackwood, even through explosions and shadows. Back in St. Mary Mead days later, with the society disbanded and trials pending, Miss Marple sipped tea in the garden, the Willow Tree, now a harmless landmark cordoned off for safety. Lady Harrington joined her. You did it, Jane, the village is safe. For now, Eleanor, she replied. But curiosities like that relic remind us darkness lurks in the most ordinary places. Tom waved from the gate, heading home, a hero in his own right. As the sun set, Miss Marple pondered the shards now in police custody, wondering if their curse was truly broken or merely dormant, waiting for the next fool to seek its power. The aftermath's shocking twists tie up loose ends while hinting at lingering mysteries. Stay tuned for Chapter 8, where new revelations emerge. Chapter 8. Whispers of the past. The morning sun bathed St. Mary Mead in a golden glow, as if the village sought to wash away the darkness of recent weeks. Miss Marple sat in Lady Harrington's garden, her knitting needles clicking rhythmically, though her mind was far from the scarf taking shape. The willow tree, now cordoned off with police tape, stood silent in the distance, its secrets buried, or so it seemed. Blackwood was in custody, the society disbanded, and the crystal shards locked away in a police vault in London. Yet a nagging unease lingered in Miss Marple's thoughts. The relic's curse, whether scientific or supernatural, felt unresolved. And the mention of Lord Voss, the shadowy collector, suggested a wider web. She sipped her tea, resolving to dig deeper. Lady Harrington joined her, carrying a tray of biscuits. Jane, you look troubled. Surely it's over now. Miss Marple set her knitting aside. I wish it were, Eleanor. But Blackwood wasn't working alone. This Lord Voss, he wanted the crystal for a reason. And those shards, they're still potent. We need to know more about the relic's origins. After breakfast, she decided to revisit the village library, hoping Miss Clara might have overlooked records about the witch or the crystal's history. The library was quiet, its shelves heavy with the musty scent of old books. Miss Clara greeted her with a knowing smile. Back for more secrets, Miss Marple? Always, she replied. Anything on the witch hanged at the Willow in 1692, or this starlight crystal? Miss Clara rummaged through a locked cabinet, pulling out a fragile manuscript bound in cracked leather. This is the oldest record we have, a village chronicle from the 17th century. It mentions the witch, Agnes Blackthorne, hanged for sorcery, but some say she was a healer, not evil. Miss Marple pored over the pages, her eyes catching on a passage. Agnes crafted a gem from fallen stars. It read, imbued with life's essence, to heal or harm by her will. She hid it beneath the willow, sealed with a blood oath, cursing any who sought it for greed. A sketch showed the circle-cross symbol Miss Marple had found. This confirms the legend, she murmured. The crystal's power was tied to Agnes's intent, perhaps why it's so erratic now. Miss Clara leaned in. There's more. A rumour that Agnes had followers who guarded the secret after her death. A hidden order, not unlike your ghost society. Miss Marple's pulse quickened. Could some of Blackwood's group be descendants of that order, twisted over time? She thanked Miss Clara and headed to the church, where Reverend Thomas might know more about ancient village sects. The vicar was polishing candlesticks in the vestry, his face brightening at her arrival. Miss Marple, you've saved us from that madness. How can I help now? She explained her theory about Agnes's followers. Any old families tied to such a group? The vicar frowned, thinking. The Blackwoods, Finches and Hayeses have been here for generations. Old tales hint at a secret circle in the 1700s, meeting in the crypt. I thought it folklore, but after this... He led her to the crypt, pointing to faded carvings on the walls. More circle cross symbols, alongside names etched faintly. Blackthorn, Finch, Hayes. A chill ran through her. The society wasn't new. It was a revival of something ancient, corrupted by Blackwood's greed. She asked, "Any records of these families' rolls?" The vicar fetched a parish ledger from 1750, listing baptisms and burials. It noted a Blackthorn descendant, Eliza Finch, as a keeper of sacred relics. Dr. Hayes's ancestor was listed as a healer, possibly linked to Agnes's knowledge. Blackwood's line, however, was marked with warnings of ambition and secrecy. Miss Marple's suspicions deepened. The society's members weren't random. They were chosen for their heritage, manipulated by Blackwood to unearth the crystal. Back at the manor, she shared her findings with Lady Harrington. "Eleanor, this goes beyond Blackwood. The crystal's tied to a bloodline, and its curse might still linger in those shards. We need to trace Lord Voss. He may know more about its history, or want it for the same reasons." Lady Harrington suggested, "Could we contact the London police? They have Voss in custody." Miss Marple nodded. "I'll call Inspector Craddock, but I want to speak to Mrs. Finch first. She may know more about her family's role." At the village jail, Mrs. Finch sat in a small cell, her face drawn with guilt. Miss Marple sat opposite, her tone gentle but firm. "Mrs. Finch, your ancestor. Eliza was a keeper of Agnes Blackthorn's secrets. What did Blackwood tell you about the crystal?" The schoolteacher's hands trembled. "He said our families were destined to wield it, to restore the village's glory. My great-grandmother left journals about a starlight gem, said it could heal if used with pure intent. Blackwood twisted it, wanted to sell it. I dug at the Willow to find more clues, not to harm anyone." "Did you know about the murders?" Mrs. Finch shook her head, tears falling. "Not until it was too late. Sally and Jenkins, they saw too much. Grayson died because the elixir failed." "Blackwood lied to us all," Miss Marple pressed. "And Lord Voss?" Mrs. Finch hesitated. "Blackwood met him through a dealer in occult artifacts. Voss collects cursed objects, believes they hold power over fate. He funded our searches, sent that elixir recipe from an old grimoire." Miss Marple's mind raced. Voss wasn't just a buyer. He was orchestrating the hunt, perhaps knowing the crystal's true nature. She thanked Mrs. Finch and returned to the manor, phoning Craddock. "Inspector, you must interrogate Voss about his collection and any grimoires mentioning the crystal. It's not just a gem, it's a legacy of danger." Craddock promised to investigate, but warned, "Voss is slippery, claiming he's just a collector. We've got the shards under lock and key, but I'll push him." That evening, Miss Marple sat with Tom, who'd been helping the police search the Willow's debris. "Found anything new?" she asked. He nodded. "A burned journal in the rubble, half-readable. Talks about Agnes's followers vowing to protect the crystal from outsiders. Says it's tied to the land. Remove it and the village suffers." Miss Marple frowned. The crop failures, the animals' strange behaviour, it might explain them. The crystal's presence, even in pieces, could be toxic. She examined the journal's charred pages, finding a ritual to neutralize the curse, a chant and an offering of earth from the willow's roots. Could it work, or was it more superstition? As night fell, a telegram arrived from Craddock. Voss had confessed to funding Blackwood, but claimed ignorance of the murders. He'd revealed a grimoire in his collection, describing the crystal as a fragment of a larger starstone scattered across England. Other pieces might exist, each with its own curse. Miss Marple's heart sank. The danger wasn't confined to St. Mary Mead. She resolved to visit London herself, to see Voss's grimoire and learn how to end the crystal's threat for good. But as she packed, a strange noise came from the garden. A low hum, like the crystal's pulse. Stepping outside, she saw a faint green glow near the manor's gate. A single shard, missed by the police, lay half buried in the soil, glowing softly. She didn't touch it, but its presence sent a shiver through her. The curse wasn't finished, and neither was her work. The past reveals a deeper legacy, pulling Miss Marple toward a broader mystery. Stay tuned for Chapter 9, where she faces the crystal's lingering power and a new threat. Chapter 9. The Crystal's Call. The faint green glow of the crystal shard pulsed in the manor's garden, casting eerie shadows on the gravel path as Miss Marple stood frozen, her breath catching in the cool night air. The shard, overlooked by the police, seemed alive, its hum a soft but insistent whisper, like a voice from the earth itself. She stepped closer, careful not to touch it, her mind racing with the revelations from the burned journal and Mrs. Finch's confession. The crystal wasn't just a relic, it was part of a larger starstone, its fragments scattered across England, each potentially carrying Agnes Blackthorne's curse. This shard's presence in Lady Harrington's garden meant the danger was far from over. She hurried inside to fetch a cloth, wrapping the shard carefully and placing it in a tin box from the kitchen. "Eleanor," she called, "we have a problem." Lady Harrington appeared, her face paling at the sight of the box. "Another piece of that wretched thing? How did it get here?" Miss Marple frowned. Either it was dropped during the chaos at the Willow, or someone placed it here deliberately. A warning, perhaps. "We need to get to London to see Lord Voss's grimoire. It may hold the key to neutralizing this curse." At dawn, Miss Marple and Tom caught the first train to London, the tin box secured in her knitting bag, alongside the vial and letters. The countryside blurred past, but her thoughts were on the grimoire and Voss's role. If he collected cursed artifacts, he might know how to handle the Starstone, or be plotting to gather its pieces for himself. Tom shifted nervously beside her. "You think Voss is behind that shard showing up?" "It's possible," she replied. "He's cunning, and his confession to the police felt too tidy." In London, they navigated the bustling streets to Scotland Yard, where Inspector Craddock met them in a cluttered office. "Miss Marple, you're relentless," he said with a wry smile. "Voss is in holding, but he's tight-lipped about the grimoire. Says it's just a collector's item." "Let me see him," she urged. "And the book." Craddock led them to a stark interrogation room, where Lord Voss sat, his sharp features composed, his hands folded calmly. His eyes narrowed as Miss Marple entered. "The meddling spinster from St. Mary Mead," he said coolly. "To what do I owe this visit?" She held his gaze. "The Starstone, Lord Voss. Your grimoire describes it as part of a larger whole. Where are the other pieces, and how do we stop their curse?" Voss leaned back, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "You've done your homework. The grimoire is old, written by a scholar who tracked the Starstone's fragments. They fell centuries ago, each imbued with strange properties. Agnes Blackthorne bound one to her will, but it's unstable without the proper rites." "And those rites?" she pressed. He shrugged. "Lost to time unless you believe the nonsense about blood oaths and earth offerings. But I'm no sorcerer, just a collector." Miss Marple produced the tin box, opening it to reveal the glowing shard. Voss's composure faltered, his eyes glinting with hunger. "Where did you find that?" "Near the manor," she said. "Conveniently placed, perhaps." Voss's smirk returned. "Not by me." Blackwood was reckless, scattering shards in his panic. "I only wanted the main crystal for my collection." She didn't believe him but pressed on. "The grimoire, Lord Voss, I need to see it." Craddock intervened, escorting them to an evidence room where the book lay under lock and key. Its pages were brittle, inked with arcane symbols and Latin text. Miss Marple, fluent in basic Latin from her school days, deciphered a passage about uniting the Starstone's pieces to amplify its power, or destroy them to break the curse. It mentioned a ritual requiring all fragments, an offering of willow earth, and a chant spoken at midnight under the tree where the first was hidden. "This matches the journal's ritual," she murmured. "But we don't have all the pieces." Craddock frowned. "We've got 3 shards in evidence, plus yours. Voss claims he doesn't know of others, but we're searching his townhouse." Miss Marple's instincts screamed that Voss was hiding more. She turned to him. "You funded Blackwood for a reason. Are you searching for the other fragments?" He laughed softly. If I were, I'd be more discreet than your village fanatics. But I'll tell you this. Check the old priory ruins near Dover. Rumours say another piece is buried there. Craddock jotted it down. We'll investigate. Miss Marple, you've done enough. Go home. But she wasn't ready to rest. Back at their lodging, a modest inn near the station, she and Tom pored over the grimoire's photocopied pages Craddock had provided. One diagram showed 5 starstone fragments, each tied to a different site in England. If Voss was right about Dover, another piece was close. Tom, we need to visit those ruins, she said. If we find another shard, we might have enough to perform the ritual and end this. Tom looked wary. What if it's a trap? Voss could be sending us into danger. A risk we'll take, she replied, but we'll go prepared. The next morning, they took a train to Dover, the cliffs rising stark against the sea. The priory ruins were desolate, crumbling arches overgrown with ivy. Miss Marple clutched her bag, the shard's hum faint but persistent. They searched the grounds, following the grimoire's clues to a buried marker, a stone with the circle cross symbol. Digging carefully with a borrowed spade, Tom unearthed a small iron box. Inside was another shard, its glow weaker but unmistakable. It's real, he whispered. Suddenly, footsteps crunched behind them. A man in a dark coat emerged, his face obscured by a scarf. Hand it over, he growled, brandishing a knife. Miss Marple's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. You're one of Voss's men, aren't you? He froze, surprised. No matter. Give me the shard or the boy gets it. Tom stepped forward, fists clenched, but Miss Marple raised a hand. Wait. She tossed the empty tin box at the man's feet, distracting him. Tom lunged, knocking the knife away, and they ran, clutching the new shard. The man gave chase, but tripped on the uneven ground, cursing as they escaped to the road. A passing farmer offered them a ride to the station, and they boarded a train back to London, breathless but unharmed. At Scotland Yard, Miss Marple handed the new shard to Craddock, explaining the attack. Voss is playing a deeper game, she said. He's after the Starstone's full power, not just a collection. Craddock nodded, ordering a raid on Voss's properties. But Miss Marple knew time was short. With 4 shards now, 3 from the police and 1 from Dover, she needed to return to St. Mary Mead to perform the ritual. Back at the manor she prepared, gathering earth from the willow's roots and memorizing the grimoire's chant. As midnight approached, she and Tom stood beneath the scarred tree, the shards arranged in a circle. The air grew heavy, the hum rising. She began the chant, her voice steady. By earth and will, I bind thee, Starstone, release thy hold. The shards flared, their light merging, then dimmed. A wind howled, and the ground trembled, but a shadow moved in the darkness. Someone was watching, and Miss Marple realized the ritual had drawn more than the curse's attention. The crystal's call summons danger and a partial victory, but shadows linger. Stay tuned for Chapter 10, where Miss Marple faces the final reckoning. Chapter 10, The Final Reckoning. The willow tree loomed over Miss Marple and Tom, its gnarled branches swaying in the midnight wind as the shards of the Starstone glowed within their circle of earth, their light pulsing in time with her chant. The air crackled with an unnatural energy, the hum of the fragments growing louder, almost alive, as if Agnes Blackthorne's ancient will stirred from centuries past. Miss Marple's voice held steady, reciting the grimoire's words. By earth and will I bind thee, Starstone, release thy hold and return to dust. The ground trembled beneath her feet, the willow's roots seeming to writhe in response. Tom gripped her arm, his eyes wide. It's working, Miss Marple, look, the shards are fading. Indeed, the green glow dimmed, the hum softening. But the shadow she had glimpsed in the darkness moved closer, a figure stepping into the faint light. It was Lord Voss, his sharp features twisted with desperation, a pistol glinting in his hand. Stop this at once, he hissed. You're destroying my legacy. Miss Marple paused, her heart steady despite the threat. So you escaped custody, Lord Voss. I suspected you'd come for the shards, he sneered, advancing. Blackwood was a fool, but I know the Starstone's true power. United, it can bend life itself, heal or destroy at a whim. I've spent years tracking its pieces, and you won't rob me now. Tom stepped forward, but Miss Marple held him back. Why risk so much? She asked, her voice calm. What drives you to chase this curse? Voss's eyes flickered with something like pain. My son, he's dying. The Starstone could save him. Blackwood promised results, but his rituals failed. I sent men to Dover to secure the last shard, but you beat me there. Now finish the ritual or the boy dies. Miss Marple's mind raced, piecing together the final puzzle. Voss wasn't just a greedy collector. His motive was personal, twisted by desperation. She glanced at the shards, now barely glowing. The ritual was nearly complete, but Voss's interference could destabilize it. She spoke carefully. The Starstone's curse killed Sally Jenkins Grayson and others. It's too unstable to save anyone. Let me finish, and we'll find another way for your son. Voss wavered his hand, trembling on the pistol. Lies, he muttered, but doubt crept into his voice. Before he could respond, a rustle came from the bushes. Inspector Craddock emerged with 2 constables, their lanterns flooding the scene. Drop the weapon, Voss, you're surrounded. Voss spun, startled, and in that moment, Miss Marple resumed the chant, her voice rising. By blood and earth I sever thy power, Starstone, be free. The shards flared one last time, then crumbled into dull grey dust, scattering across the willow's roots. A gust of wind swept through, carrying the dust away, and the hum ceased entirely. Voss cried out, dropping to his knees, the pistol falling. No, my last chance. Craddock cuffed him as Miss Marple stepped back, her breath steadying. It's over, Inspector. The Starstone's power is broken. Tom looked awestruck. You did it, Miss Marple. The curse is gone. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on Voss, now slumped in defeat. Back at the manor, as dawn painted the sky, Lady Harrington poured tea, her hands still shaking from the night's events. Jane, how did you know the ritual would work? Miss Marple sipped thoughtfully. The grimoire and Agnes's journal suggested intent mattered. Her blood oath bound the Starstone to protect the village, but greed corrupted it. By using the Willow's earth and the right words, we undid her spell. The inspector joined them, his notebook full. Voss confessed everything. He'd been tracking Starstone fragments for a decade, believing they could cure his son's rare illness. He funded Blackwood, supplied the elixir recipe, and sent men to retrieve the Dover shard. When Blackwood's group failed, Voss took matters into his own hands. And the murders, Miss Marple asked. Craddock sighed. Blackwood ordered them to silence Sally and Jenkins, who saw the crystal's deadly tests. Grayson's death was an accident, the crystal's instability during a ritual. Mrs. Finch and Dr. Hayes were complicit, but claimed they acted under pressure. They'll face trial, Tom piped up. What about the crystal? Was it really magic? Miss Marple smiled faintly. Not magic, perhaps a rare mineral with properties we don't fully understand. Radiation or toxicity amplified by the elixir could explain the healings and deaths. Agnes likely stumbled on it, mistaking science for sorcery. The village suffered. Crops failed. Animals sickened. Because the shards were disturbed. Now they're dust, the land should recover. Lady Harrington marvelled. And you stopped it all, Jane? Not alone, Miss Marple said, glancing at Tom. Courage and truth did the rest. Later that day she walked to the Willow, now just a tree, its menace gone. Villagers gathered, some thanking her, others still whispering of ghosts. She smiled, knowing St. Mary Mead would heal, though its secrets would linger in their stories. Back at the manor, she packed her bag, preparing for the train home. Tom waved her off at the station. You're a hero, Miss Marple. Hardly, she replied, just an old woman who listens. As the train pulled away, she reflected on Agnes Blackthorne, a healer misunderstood whose legacy had been twisted by greed and fear. The Starstone was gone, but its lesson remained. Power unchecked brings ruin. In her quiet cottage later, Miss Marple sat by the fire, her knitting resumed. The village was safe, the society broken, and Voss's quest ended in tragedy. Yet she wondered if other fragments lay hidden, waiting for another soul to chase their deadly promise. For now she'd rest, but her sharp eyes would always watch for the next mystery. If you've enjoyed this tale of secrets and shadows, grab a cup of tea and join us for more stories. Subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. The Starstone's curse is broken, the society's crimes exposed, and Miss Marple's wisdom prevails. Stay tuned for more adventures where truth unravels the darkest mysteries.